Iran's nuclear program began under the Shah in the 1950s. Platforming these ridiculous statements is war propaganda, not journalism. Fordo is a nuclear facility that is built specifically and totally for the murder of Jews in Israel. What the? They're making Jew-seeking nukes. Okay, it's new tech. It's new tech. And not even Jewish people all around the world, just in Israel, guys. You don't understand. Iran's... You've heard nukes. Now we have jukes. Nukes specifically seeking out Jewish people. It's very fucked up.
The nuclear capability that is built specifically and totally for the murder of Jews in Israel. That is literally what it's designed to do.
Bro, how can you say this with a straight face? How is nobody going, I'm sorry, what? Wait, like I've already moved past the point of them like building nukes because they want to annihilate every other country. But like, this is so stupid. It's nukes, man. No, you don't understand. These are very specific nukes that target Jewish people in Israel. You could launch it from anywhere around the world and it will still find a Jewish person from Israel to deploy upon.
That's why it was placed under the IRGC and not under the civilian regime. It was entirely designed to create weapons. It was not designed for any civilian purpose at all. And actually, by destroying it, it's keeping the British people safer as well, because the missiles that the IRGC have been developing would reach as far as London.
No, it wouldn't. No, no, that's not true. There's only one psychotic, bloodthirsty, ethno-religious supremacist state in the region with nukes and targeting capabilities of reaching London, also known as Londonistan. And that country is Israel. It is not Iran. It's Israel.
And would threaten us as well.
And from your contacts in the region, do you think that Americans' claim that they have destroyed that facility is true from what you know and what you can tell us?
So the initial reports that we're hearing are that that appears to be the case. Of course, you've got to wait until confirmation satellite passes and evidence on the ground comes up. But at the moment, it appears that the Americans have struck all three targets extremely precisely and destroyed areas that were threatening the British people.
You're laughing. Iran has jukes, and you're laughing. This is not a funny subject matter. You're laughing anti-Semitically, not at the mere prospect of a new technology that I just made up right now that is specifically targeting Jewish people in Israel in an effort to make it sound even more dangerous and anti-Semitic. Oh, also, the new talking points have been downloaded, ladies and gentlemen. New talking points for MAGA have been downloaded. If you're no longer MAGA because Trump wiped out Iran's nuclear sites, you were never MAGA to begin with. If you're upset that Trump took out Obama's nuclear facilities in Iran, you were never MAGA, which is so ironic. To invoke Obama in this case is so funny because he did successfully stop the Iranian nuclear program. Trump actually restarted it. Oh my God, I can't believe this. These guys are so stupid that they have me defending Barack Hussein Obama. Oh my God. If you're no longer MAGA because Trump wiped out Iran's nuclear sites, you were never MAGA in the first place. I may upset a lot of people with this, but if you're no longer MAGA, it's like, oh my God, they're bots.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for joining us. The big question, is the United States now at war with Iran?
No, we're not at war with Iran, John. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program, and I think the president...
The nuclear program is a red herring. It's a red herring.
...took decisive action to destroy that program last night. If I could step back a little bit, we have to give an incredible amount of gratitude to the troops who did...
If it's a red herring, why were the strikes only to nuclear sites? But if Iran is funding terrorism and trying to build nukes regardless of diplomacy, then what? I mean, Iran should be trying to build nukes. Iran should have been trying to build nukes regardless, it seems. Clearly, because American diplomacy means nothing, has only been moving further and further in the direction of full tilt destabilization and turning Iran into a fail state. So if you're a regional power in this process and you want to maintain your sovereignty and you don't want your country to turn to Libya, you probably should very quickly develop nukes. As far as if it's a red herring, why were the strikes only on nuclear strikes? Why were the strikes on nuclear sites to begin with if there was a denuclearization negotiation taking place? Why was there a time period when there were no new centrifuges being developed and then Donald Trump came in and cast aside that previous diplomatic effort? That's just a casus belli. It's basically WMDs, okay? Just as fake as WMDs. Hasan, why do you hate America so much? I don't. I think these guys hate America, or rather, they hate Americans. They hate people like you. They want people like you to go out and die so that their butt buddies can make more money off of all of this death and destruction. They are careless with the lives of Black and brown people all over the global South, and they're not even careful or not even remotely interested in uplifting the living standards of regular Americans. If I hated America and Americans, I would be on board with everything that Donald Trump is doing.
An amazing thing last night. Think about this, John. They flew thousands of miles away, a 30-hour nonstop flight. They never touched down on the ground, and they dropped a 30,000-pound bomb on a target about the size of a washing machine. No military in the world has the training, the skills, and the equipment to do what these guys did last night.
Yeah, about like what, 120,000 health cares? That's what it cost. This military campaign.
I know the president and I are both very proud of them, and I think what they did was accomplish a very core American national objective. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapons program. The president's been very clear about this, and thanks to the bravery and competence and skill of our great pilots and everybody who supported this mission, we took a major step forward for that national objective last night.
It certainly was a complex and overwhelming mission.
Yeah, see, you hide yourself, you drape yourself in the flag, you hide behind our brave soldiers and our military might, and then that's how you effectively dismantle any sort of counter, because no one in mainstream media is going to sit there and be like, how do you think this advances America's interest? There was a negotiation that was taking place. Iran was very responsive to said negotiations, and you used the negotiations in a way to let our rabid attack dog that's doing a fucking genocide in Gaza go and strike Iran directly, and then you ended up joining the fight while there were more talks about diplomacy. How can anybody ever again trust America and its word? Ever again? We struck nuclear sites, man. We struck nuclear facilities. This is like how do we not understand this is an incredibly dangerous precedent? We did this after spending years and years talking about how scary it is that Russia is doing so in Ukraine.
125 aircraft involved, we are told. Can you say definitively that Iran's nuclear program has now been destroyed?
Well, John, I don't want to get into the sensitive intelligence here, but we know that we set the Iranian nuclear.
Yeah, they didn't. This is the way to basically admit that they did not, by the way. That's the other side of the story. Just watch this space. They're going to say they didn't in a little bit when they justify striking Iran again, just so you understand. They're going to say, oh, well, this was a good first strike, but more strikes are necessary. First, Israel will say this. They've probably already started saying this. They're going to say, oh, the impact was very limited, and also they had moved the enriched uranium to other facilities, and our intelligence is working tirelessly to figure out where those facilities are. Could be under a mosque, could be under a school, who knows? And then Iran will continue striking, and then they will demand, they found another deep underground base, actually. There's special intelligence. America has to come back again. America has to fight again. That is, if Iran doesn't, in the interim, Iran doesn't immediately strike American bases, which will pull America into the conflict as though they haven't been pulled into it already. Iran themselves said it. I know, but Iran said that literally a week prior to the American bombing campaign. America knew that Iran had already moved the enriched uranium, and yet they struck Fordow anyway. I think the real reason why America struck Fordow and the other nuclear facilities directly was so that they would shift Iran's attention away to American assets in the region and away from bombing Tel Aviv, because I think that Israel's air defenses have diminished. They have been exhausted. So every day that Iran spends striking Israel instead of striking American assets is a day where the appetite for more violence and bloodshed from Israeli society overall, once they finally experience repercussions, goes away. It's another day where the Israeli economy is at a halt.
What, do we know what has become of that? Was it destroyed in this attack? Do we know? That's a
Well,
big
we're going to work
stockpile.
in the coming weeks. Yeah, John, we're going to work in the coming weeks to ensure that we do something with that fuel. And that's one of the things that we're going to have conversations with the Iranians about. But what we know, John, is they no longer have the capacity to turn that stockpile of highly enriched uranium to weapons grade uranium. And that was really the goal here. Uranium is not that difficult to come by, John, but enriching uranium up to the point of a nuclear weapon, that is what the president put a stop to last night.
There is no functional way to stop any sort of nuclear program outside of real hardline commitments to peace and negotiations. Barack Obama and Donald Trump basically proved this. In the absence of that, if the goal is to stop the nuclear program, then your goal isn't the nuclear program at all. Your goal is destabilization. The nuclear program, which doesn't even exist really, like they don't have nukes. It's a lie. It's like saying Iraq has WMDs. It's the same shit. You're not going to be able to do that with a limited air campaign either. The only way you can do that with boots on the ground military warfare, which good luck at that point. If you thought the Iraq war was bad, holy
President Trump last night also threatened additional military action if Iran retaliates or if peace does not come quickly. How quickly are we talking about? Are we talking about days? Are we talking about weeks?
Well, look, John, I'll let the president make those determinations, actually, but we're now going to have a serious conversation about how to get rid of Iran's nuclear weapons program permanently, meaning they have to choose not to have a nuclear weapons program and they have to give this thing up. Now, if you go back a little bit, John, what we have said consistently and repeatedly is they cannot have a nuclear weapon. We accomplished the goal of putting them back substantially last night, but there are two big things that the Iranians are going to have to choose from here. Number one, do they attack American troops in the region? If they do, as the president said, you're going to see overwhelming force from the Americans. If they continue to pursue a nuclear weapon, you're also going to see overwhelming force from the American people. So we've got really the ball in Iran's court here. If they make smart decisions, I think they're going to find us willing to work with them. If they continue to support terrorism, nuclear...
work with them, just like we have so far, you know? Work with them as we have done so far. What more do you want? We want to work with them, dude. Come back to the negotiation table one more time so we can slap you in the face one more time as we slowly but surely keep playing the song and dance until your entire sovereignty is diminished, knowing full well that you won't even retaliate one bit in the process. Come on, man. Come on. Have you said thank you, Iran? Iran, have you said thank you?
If you look at what we did yesterday, John, we did not attack the nation of Iran. We did not attack any civilian targets. We didn't.
You did. You literally did. Why are you on this Sunday program? Because you are explaining why you struck Iran.
Didn't even attack military targets outside of the 3 nuclear weapons facilities that we thought were important to accomplish our goal of preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. So how Iran responds, I think, is ultimately the ball is in their court. But if you look at what we did, it was very precise, very narrowly tailored to our objective. And if the Iranians decide to expand this, then that's ultimately their decision, and the President of the United States will respond in kind.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, this is ridiculous. They are, everything that they said about the initial success, they're going to walk back quietly. Or not quietly. They're just going to casually walk back as they talk about the necessity for further strikes. That is, if Iran doesn't even fucking retaliate against American troop positions in the region. They're going to be like, oh, Israel has to keep striking Iran because, you know, we found new sites. We found new sites where they have moved their enriched nuclear uranium to. Oh, make no mistake. We don't want regime change. This is just for the nuclear weapons that they definitely have now. It's bullshit.
Secretary of State and acting White House National Security Advisor Marco Rubio now joins us. Mr. Secretary, I know it has been an intense few hours. But so far, it does not appear that Iran has yet retaliated against the United States. What intelligence do you have at this point about their capabilities to respond, the intent of their proxies? Is there any kind of command and control structure left to activate them?
Yeah, well, we'll see what Iran decides to do. I think they should choose the route of peace. We've done everything. We have bent over backwards, okay, to create a deal with these people. Steve Witkoff has traveled the world extensively, met with them. Well, not even met with them, met through the Omanis with them and discussed back and forth. We even put an offer to them that they wanted elements of it in writing, and we offered it to them. Very generous offer, by the way. We've done it, and we're prepared right now. If they call right now and say, we want to meet, let's talk about this, we're prepared to do that. The president's made that clear from the very beginning. His preference is to deal with this issue diplomatically. But he also told them we had 60 days to make progress or something else was going to happen.
This kind of stuff is so funny. I do wonder if your parents believe this. Chatters, do your liberal parents actually believe this? Because this is liberal media, right? And they're not antagonistic to this talking point at all. You rarely ever hear liberal media turn around and say, what do you mean you want to deal with them diplomatically? I'm getting a lot of yeses and a lot of nos. Like even ones that hate the administration. I wonder if this works on them. They're like, oh, well, you know, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. This is terrifying.
And I think they thought they were dealing with a different kind of leader, like the kinds of leaders they've been playing games with for the last 30 or 40 years, and they found out that's not the case. So this mission was a very precise mission. It had 3 objectives, 3 nuclear sites. It was not an attack on Iran. It was not an attack on the Iranian people. This wasn't a regime change move. This was designed to degrade and or destroy 3 nuclear sites related to their nuclear weaponization ambitions, and that was delivered on yesterday. What happens next will now depend on what Iran chooses to do next. If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have everything they need.
What? I'm sorry. What? Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was just asked on CBS News, do you have intelligence that actually shows that there was some sort of nuclear ambition? Which is the primary reason, right? I thought that was the most significant aspect of this.
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not been made.
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched?
Oh my God. Oh my God. He just straight up confirmed that there wasn't any new information. I mean, we knew that already, but it's crazy that he just confirmed it as the motherfucking Secretary of State.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Iranian negotiators went dark as the U.S. presented offers for a civilian nuclear energy program with enrichment outside Iran.
They rejected it. They played us. They tried to play us, I should say. They wouldn't respond to our offers. They disappeared for 10 days.
The vice president said President Trump realized by mid-May negotiations were going nowhere, then issued private ultimatums and greenlit the operation after this.
The Iranians stopped negotiating in good faith. That was the real catalyst.
Now the White House waits for a response. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps says Washington...
Bro, notice how they don't say the Iranians stopped negotiating because that's a lie. So they say the Iranians stopped negotiating in good faith. Like we didn't like the negotiations. Also saying that while you have just executed a strike on Iran is insane. And yes, Richard Medhurst is correct here. She looks like she's challenging Rubio, but is propaganda with the illusion of journalism. When Rubio says, why does Iran have 60% enriched uranium? The correct and factual answer is, and this is a partisan answer, if you are a liberal, by the way, is because the U.S. walked away from the JCPOA. But you'll never hear that on mainstream media, which is shocking because that was literally Barack Obama's signature foreign policy accomplishment. If the Democrats actually had any investment in winning and being an anti-war party, being an anti-interventionist party, when we know there's a lot of popular sentiment for this position, they would just say, this is one of Barack Obama's incredible accomplishments. We love Barack Obama, and they never let him down. I mean, or they never let him live it down. All of the European leaders that were yelling at Donald Trump to stay in the JCPOA at the time are now fantasizing about how awesome it was and talking about how dope it was that they did a strike on Iran.
Uranium. You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's a question. That's a question.
It.
That's a question of intent. And you know, in the intelligence assessment, that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage.
Says?
I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's
okay. Richard Medhurst is wrong. She's right. She actually did push back on the 60% assessment. No, she's right. Never mind. I actually should give her a little bit more credit. In talking about the JCPOA would be the smart thing to do here, but she's not wrong. The reason why Iran is at a fucking nuclear is become a nuclear threshold state is because it gives them an upper hand in the negotiations to allow maintaining their fucking civilian nuclear infrastructure. And they have every right to do so because America pulled out of it and then applied a comprehensive sanctions package on Iran. That's it.
That's why I was asking you if you know something more from
but
March.
That's also an inaccurate
representation
of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriched.
Dog, you are the Secretary of State. What do you mean forget about the intelligence? That's your intelligence. What do you mean forget about the intelligence? You're not like a random guy on the street. You're the intelligence.
Enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60% if you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon? Why?
Oh, she says right. Okay, this is where she falls apart. Because at first she pushes back correctly, where she's like, they have enriched uranium to 60% with no intention by your own intelligence assessments, your own intelligence community's assessments, no interest in reaching beyond the nuclear threshold and becoming a state armed with nuclear warheads to a detriment, mind you. That's my assessment, at least, clearly.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long
I don't know. Why are your bases surrounding this god state? Perhaps that's the reason. Why does America have short-range ballistic missiles and long-range ballistic missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles and submarines that have nuclear launch capabilities? Why would anybody do that? I don't know. Maybe because they don't want to be Lebanon, dumb
range missiles that you continue to develop. Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms, they have the enrichment capability, they have the highly enriched uranium that is stored. That's all we need to see.
Right. Well,
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all instability
and no one's
in the
disputing.
Middle East.
No one's disputing.
They're just bad. They're big bad. They're the big bad. Please. It's like Marvel. It's like Top Gun. Why don't you understand? We have to blow them up. They have space lasers. God, you're so annoying. Let me blow up Iran a little bit. What is this scrutiny? God, you're so annoying. They're just bad, okay? Trust me. One of the funniest parts about this back and forth is that everything we say about Iran is more applicable to Israel. Like, everything we fantasize about Iran is literally Israel now.
This is very simple. Let's meet directly. Let's work on agreements that are good for Iran, good for the Iranian people in particular, good for the safety and security of the world and the United States. That's always been our preference. That continues to be our preference. But they're the ones that were playing games with us. And these are the consequences. We had to achieve those objectives. We had 3 objectives yesterday: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. We conducted a brilliant military operation under the command of President Trump, and obviously great credit to Secretary Hegseth and General Kurilla and General Kane and all the airmen and the phenomenal people in the U.S. military. No other military in the world could have done this. We've achieved those objectives. What happens next is up to the regime. Okay, the regime wants peace. We're ready for peace. They want to do something else. They're incredibly vulnerable. They can't even protect their own airspace.
Well, clearly they could not. But what is the U.S. assessment of how much nuclear material at those sites was moved prior to the attack? There has been talk for days about bombing of Fordow.
Well, look, we don't know.
At a certain point, we got to ask ourselves, what was the goal here then? Because if they move the enriched uranium away from Fort Al, and if you're saying that they're allowed to have a civil nuclear program and that they wanted to negotiate and then you guys struck them amidst the negotiation, at a certain point, what's all this for? Therein lies the problem. It's for regime change.
No one will know for sure for days, but I doubt they moved it because you really can't move anything right now, and they can't move anything right now inside of Iran. I mean, the minute a truck starts driving somewhere, the Israelis have seen it and they've targeted it and taken it out. So our assessment is we have to assume that that's a lot of 60% enriched uranium buried deep under the ground there in Esfahan, and that really is the key. What they should do with that is they should bring it out of the ground and turn it over. Multiple countries around the world will take it and downblend it. That's what they should do with that. And what they should do is say, we're not going to have any enrichment capability in our country. Instead, what we're going to have is a civil nuclear program like dozens of countries around the world have, where we build reactors that...
Dude, the needle is going to move away from the nuclear program. If they were to actually successfully take out the entirety of the nuclear program, which they didn't, so they're going to keep saying we have to bomb it more. Or if Iran said, okay, we will no longer have a nuclear program, then they're going to say you're funding proxy groups in the region and you have a missile system that is actually threatening our bases that you decided to have a country near, okay? And the ultimate goal is always going to be the same. There's always something else. That's it. They'll just move the goalpost to the next thing. This is not a real negotiation with a state that they want to allow to remain a state. Senator Lindsey Graham doesn't predict U.S. boots on the ground in Iran. Full interview.
Israel's not going to live this way anymore. They're not going to live under threat from Iran anymore. Last night, they were attacked. The early morning hours of today, after the attack by President Trump, Israel fired ballistic missiles into Israel, wounding Israeli citizens. 24 have been killed.
Wait, what? Israel fired ballistic missiles into Israel? How'd that happen? Am Israel high? Israel fired ballistic missiles into Israel. This is somehow Iran's fault. The missiles were anti-Semitic because of Iran.
This regime is not going to be tolerated by Israel, is what he told me.
Okay, so let me follow up with you on that point, Senator, because Prime Minister Netanyahu has signaled that Israelis want to carry out regime change. Would you support that if Israel were to carry out regime change?
If I were Israel, I would have done it a long time ago. They've been held back in many ways. What would be the right response if America had a ballistic missile fired into our country and killed our citizens? We would wipe the offender off the map. So here's what I hope. After the hospital attack, and they were so lucky not to lose a lot of people, Israel's made a decision. This regime is going to change in one of two ways. They're going to change their behavior, which I doubt, the regime itself, or the people are going to replace the regime. They have less capability today than they did yesterday, but they're still religious Nazis. They want to purify Islam. They want to destroy the Jewish state and kick us out of the Mideast. Nothing's changed about the religious Nazi makeup of the regime.
All right.
Dog, you are a conservative Republican. What do you mean Nazi regime? If they were actually a Nazi regime, you would love them. You have directly armed Nazi paramilitary groups. What are you saying? You love religious Nazis. You are a religious Nazi. Also, again, are you talking about Israel when you say religious Nazi regime?
Extraordinary details from your call with the Prime Minister. Let me ask you about this divide within the Republican Party. You, of course, did support the war in Iraq. The intelligence there turned out to be incorrect. Steve Bannon, one of President Trump's closest allies, his former chief strategist in his first term, is arguing and argued in the run-up to yesterday's strikes that this was the wrong move, that it was just going to be another mistake like what he called the Iraq War. Take a listen to a little bit of what he had to say.
This is exactly the same pitch as the Iraq War. Weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, I know.
You have to get it. So they understand one thing. They think the playbook works. This is why we have to stop it now. If we don't stop it now, it's going to work all the time.
Senator, give it.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Hey, remember these like anti-war guys, or remember the anti-Israel guys? Remember all these guys who used to criticize Israel and stuff too back in the day? May 9th, 2025, Alex Jones's prediction that President Trump would completely cut ties with Benjamin Netanyahu comes true. What's interesting about all of these guys is that they played a direct role. Steve Bannon himself has been like anti going to war with Israel seemingly. And yet, literally yesterday, he tweeted out that things were going to get spicy. Get ready for the big show. What happened? I haven't seen, don't say woke Bannon. My point is, all of these guys that seemingly are antagonistic to Israel or seemingly antagonistic to war, more war, they're lying. This is Alex Jones directly participating in the psyop that there was any sort of division between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Oh yeah, this was a good take too. What the are you doing? Is Miriam paying your debts? This is such a waste. There are like 500,000 fat guys in America who make videos about the mullahs hate our country and Israel for free. Why the do people watch you do it? You're based Fed-hating schizo, sir. Israel says they're 2 weeks away from having a bomb, but I'm lying. Alex Jones is a Fed. He is a federal agent, okay? All of the conspiratorial nut jobs who thought this dude was not a government asset are probably still churning the same foundation for defending democracy's talking points, as Adam Johnson correctly points out. When Alex Jones was in his truck reciting FDD points, talking points, Alex Jones was in his truck reciting Foundation for Defense of Democracy's talking points, that's when I knew for certain the die was cast. That's bullshit. Alex Jones is not a Fed. Why does he sound like one here? Let's hear.
I've had enough of the ignorance. How many times have I broken news before anybody else? How many times have I been right? I told you 15 years ago.
I love that he's also driving and holding his phone. I
learned directly from the people that saw the evidence.
He's literally holding his phone, using his other hand to, you know, speak. There's no hand on the wheel, and he's driving.
In CENTCOM, that they've got ground sensors, let's just leave it at that are in Iran, that can drive around and fly around and scoop up everything in the air and know what level of uranium enrichment and other...
He switched hands. He switched hands. He's like, yeah, let me put it on my good side. Let me put it on my good side. Hold on. Oh, Jesus.
Things are enriching other radioactive compounds, fissile material. And then I made calls and talked to people over the years, and they're like, yeah.
Oh, he's switching hands again. Dog, you're driving. What is going on? He just keeps no hands on the steering wheel at all. No hands on the steering wheel. My man's let Jesus hold the wheel, bro. This is crazy.
Yeah, how do you know that? You're not supposed to know that.
No, see, he put his one hand on the wheel now. And no, it's not a self-driving car. He's on the highway. Every car is passing him by. He's on the highway doing like 25. Cars keep steadily passing him by. And he just keeps switching hands, dude. Not even looking at the road. Getting passed on both sides. He's not even on the last lane for 4 minutes. Oh, dude, that's hilarious.
So you got Netanyahu 25 years ago saying they're 2 weeks away. They weren't really 2 weeks away, but within 15 years ago, they got it. And now you see the CIA going, oh, Mr. President, if you go to full war with them, they'll go ahead and finish their bomb. Then Mossad said today they're 2 weeks again out. So the Iranians didn't go the route of North Korea bragging they got nukes.
Dude, I hate to defend him, but forward camera mirrors the image. Dog, why is his arm on the steering wheel then?
Showing it off. They've had them for a long time. And people go, well, wait, you're now saying Israel should strike them if they got a bomb. No, that's why they shouldn't. The same reason we don't attack North Korea. We can beat them in a nuclear war, but everybody...
Yeah. Oh, I guess the mirrored camera also made the driver invisible, chatter. No, motherfucker. He's literally driving. He's driving on the highway. He's getting passed on both sides by cars because he's driving slow. And he's driving, not looking at the road. And he's using both of his hands to switch the camera angle. And he does not have his hands on the wheel at all. He's also possibly drunk.
It loses and it creates a chain reaction. Tulsi's great. She's doing off the official assessment she's got. She's only been in there, like 80, 90 days or whatever. And she's going off official assessment she has, not off all the hidden intel. Official assessments are the worst information there is. So when Trump says Tulsi's wrong, they're building a...
Every time he switches camera, every time he switches the camera from one hand to the other, to put his hand up to go, initial intelligence assessments, I lose it. This is incredible.
Bomb, and they're about to have it. No, they got it. And when they demonstrated last year that they can hit Israel and get through their defenses with those ballistic missiles, it means they can hit them with a bomb. Israel's argument is take them out then. No, you don't do that, because if you put them against the wall, they'll launch their atomic weapons, and Israel will obliterate them with better, more high-tech systems they've had since the 60s, but it won't matter. It's like the War Games movie from the 80s, a strange game. Only way to win is not to play. Only way to win is not to play. So that's where we are. And again, this is out of control. I'm glad Trump put a 2-week moratorium on striking Iran. Iran's very belligerent because they can block the Strait of Hormuz and drive up oil prices massively and tank the world economy and kill Trump's recovery. So I don't know what we should specifically do, but everybody should take a deep breath here that's got war fever and just understand this is dangerous. Bannon literally doesn't brag about it, but it's admitted from sources that's what happened. He went in there and talked Trump down yesterday from striking him basically today. So we need more of what Bannon did and less of what Netanyahu's pushing. I don't want Israel to be blown off the map. I don't have some existential hatred of Israel. This is all interconnected. But I do not like the leadership of Israel, and Netanyahu's in political trouble and wants to continue to use crises to stay in power. Same thing with Zelensky and NATO and the EU is collapsing. So they want a war with Russia to prop themselves up. I don't hate the people of Europe, but I don't like their leadership. So I've been vindicated again. Hopefully we got a reprieve at least a week or so. But more aircraft carriers are showing up at Gerald.
It's crazy how people from the U.S. get mad at Iran for being able to sway world politics. Dude, this man should be worried about a different sway, okay? How his vehicle is swaying from lane to lane on the Texas interstate. Notice something? I didn't even give a shit about his talking points because I've heard them a million times, because those talking points are exactly the same as every other Republican mouthpiece and every other Republican influencer.